Ladies and Pokemon, Andy here. I went from depressed, D-fucking-pressed, it's like pressed but with the D, depressed to living a life of abundance and joy. If I can do it, you sure as hell can too. Let's jump straight into it. So one of the guys in my coaching group was doing this thing that I see a lot, where he was sort of suffering on this path in order to reach his goals. So he is in the process of learning to talk to women, right? He's going outside, he's good at it, he's getting some results, but I've noticed a lot, and I picked up a lot, that the language he uses invokes images of like suffering and pain and misery. So he says things like, it was a brutal night last night, or I got rejected a ton, or this is painful, or this was really hard. And one of the guys in the coaching program jumped in there and said, transmit that positive energy, bro. Like, in other words, this is allowed to be fun. And I jumped on that and said, this 1,000 times. Have fun with this shit. It doesn't have to be brutal. Each rejection, or every time a girl doesn't want to sleep with you, you can frame that as a good thing. Like, you can have a big smile on your face and you can go, fuck yes, I love it when women say no to me. It helps build me up. It makes me stronger. It makes me more resilient. It is literally one more chain in my armor. I am building my stoicism. This woman who just said no to me is helping me practice my stoicism. God bless her. You can literally say thank you to these women when they say no thank you. You can be like, thank you, cheers, like, great. Every no is one step closer to the next yes. So what I got this guy to do, and this is one of my favorite exercises, is I got him to write down 10 reasons why it's a good thing when a bunch of girls say no to him, especially like in a club or something, which is where he was sort of getting a bit frustrated. 10 reasons this makes you a stronger man, 10 reasons that this makes you a happier man, all of that kind of stuff. I gave him a bunch of suggestions, but there are so many times when we're on this path to self-improvement or on our path to our goals where we just make ourselves suffer. Or maybe a better way of saying it is we focus on the suffering. We focus on the hard work. We say like, man, today was brutal. It was hard. It was difficult. And I'm here to tell you guys, as someone who used to be an addict to suffering, I used to have all of these stories of like, if I'm suffering, if this is hard, if this is painful, that means that it's really worth it. That means that I'm working hard. That means that I'm a strong fucking alpha male. It doesn't have to be suffering. As I said to this coaching client of mine, this process of self-improvement, this process of achieving your goals, it's allowed to be fun. You're allowed to enjoy it. And what I got him to do is, or what we're getting him to do, is to start focusing on the ways that this cold approach thing is fun. And maybe for some of you, you're in the process of building a business. And maybe right now, all you're focusing on, or it can be hard to not focus on it, but you're focusing a lot on like, man, I didn't make any money today, or this potential client said no, or I did a bunch of cold emails and I didn't get any responses. Or some of you are in the process of like applying for a new job, and maybe you've sent out 50 resumes and 50 applications and you haven't heard back from anyone. Everyone just politely says no, thank you. And it can be so easy to focus on the suffering there and to go like, man, this is fucking brutal. This is tough. This is hard. What I want you guys to do is start, like I said, reframing it into how it's a good thing. These rejections and the fact that no one's replying to me, fuck yeah, man, this is building my stoicism. This is getting me one step closer to that like stoic alpha male, like I don't give a fuck attitude that I'm going for. And so this shit can be a good fucking thing. To bring it full circle to the title of this podcast, which is hitting on women doesn't have to be a boxing match, it's a dance. One of the things that I got him to realize, or I'm getting my coaching client to realize, is this process, this thing doesn't have to be a fucking battle, right? I think so many times with our goals, we see it as a battle. We think of it as like we're the underdog and we're fighting this like fucking hero story. It's like David versus Goliath, me versus all the haters, me versus everybody who doubted me. Some of you, it's like me versus women, or I've seen some women do the same thing, me versus men, like it's a fucking battle. And as I said to this guy, it doesn't have to be this battle. It doesn't have to be this painful fucking thing where she rejects you and you're like, fuck, like, It can be a lot nicer than that. And I said to him, this doesn't have to be a boxing match. It's allowed to be a dance. In other words, you're allowed to have fun with this shit. If a woman says no to you, you're allowed to say that, hey, beautiful, awesome. I love that you know what you want. You can have a big smile on your face and say, hey, I hope you have a beautiful day. Thank you. Like, you're allowed to enjoy that. When you do find a woman that you click with, really, really, really be present and enjoy that. This whole process of life, it doesn't have to be suffering. And I see so many people that focus on the suffering. God, one of my favorite people in the world, Jordan Peterson, has literally said many, many, many times, life is suffering. I don't fucking agree with that. Or another way of phrasing that is, that's a story. That's one way of phrasing it. I could literally say life is a gift. Which one of us is right, Dr. Peterson or Andy? We're both correct and we're both wrong. We're both just telling a fucking story. And then we will go hunting for the evidence. He will say, or, if you're in the same business as, if you're in the same habit, you'll say life is suffering, and then you'll go outside and find 500 reasons why you're correct. You'll reinforce your narrative because that's what we as humans do. I will say life is a gift, and then I will go outside and find 500 confirmations of my narrative. I'll find 500 reasons why life is beautiful and why it's worth smiling and everything is wonderful and everything is a gift and it's beautiful and all of that. And so you have to realize you're telling a story when you say this was a brutal rejection, or man, it's so fucking tough, or God damn it, this is so painful, or man, rejection hurts, or how come no one will, give me a job? This sucks. When you tell those stories, you're doing exactly that. You're telling a fucking story. Dating women doesn't have to be a boxing match. Applying for jobs doesn't have to be a slog. Losing weight doesn't have to be painful and suffering. Giving up an addiction doesn't have to be difficult. You might have some challenges. You might have some setbacks. There might be a bunch of problems that you need to learn to solve. You might get kicked around a little bit and feel goofy sometimes and feel like a bit of an idiot and feel like you have no idea what you're doing. You might feel embarrassed. You might feel some emotions. You might have all of this stuff happen, but you don't have to suffer with all of that. In other words, when you do hit those challenges or those setbacks, when you do feel a little bit silly, you don't have to add extra shit on top. You don't have to pile extra suffering on top. You can just sit there and say, okay, like it was, an interesting night. I didn't get any numbers and I talked to 30 women. Okay, cool. I got some practice in, I got some socializing in, and every single one of those 30 no's is one step closer to the next yes. So I put in my reps. It's like going to the gym. You're literally just putting in the reps, and then you see the payoff when you put in enough reps. You might have to talk to 100 women before you have sex. You might have to talk to 500 women. It varies between different guys. You might talk to 30 women and have sex. The point is that you're putting in these numbers, you're putting in these reps, and it applies to absolutely everything, but especially with dating. And again, to come back to the title, it doesn't have to be this boxing match, guys. It's not you versus women. And any ladies listening, it's not you versus men. I think so much in dating, or I see so much in dating, when we view it as this combative or fucking combat sport, right? Where it's like, I'm trying to win and I'm trying not to let you win. It's like, what if we both just win together? This isn't a zero-sum game. It's not one person wins and one person loses. What if we both come together, fucking yin-yang, and we support each other and we both want the same thing, and if you don't want the same thing, you go out and you find the person who does want the same thing as you? What if I just need to find my match by, playing the numbers game, by self-improvement, all of that stuff that we talk about, and then I go find the people who want what I want? And it's not a boxing match. It's two people who are on the same mission, or who at least in that moment in time want the same thing. You come together and you share something fucking wonderful. So, I said to this coaching client, this dating thing, and again, this applies to every goal, it doesn't have to be brutal. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be difficult. And I said to him, you're telling that story that this is hard. And a lot of us do that, right? I did this for years until it was literally my spiritual coach. It was like, why are you intentionally suffering? And I had to go through this whole fucking, purging of that suffering. And as I realized, or as he helped me realize, and, I said this to my coaching client, I'll say this to a lot of you, a lot of the time we do it as in we focus on the suffering, or we tell ourselves this sucks, or this is hard, or this is painful, or man, rejection is brutal. The number of times I've heard people say rejection is brutal, and it's like, yeah, it is if you tell yourself that. But the reason that we do it is so that your ego can jerk itself off and say, I'm a big tough man, look at all this hardship I'm facing, look at all this brutal stuff that I've overcome. I'm the underdog and I'm winning. Like, it's me versus the world. It's me versus women. We as men, okay, I think we as people, but especially we as men, like a battle. It feels good. Like, it does. We like to go to war. But you don't have to go to war with the opposite fucking gender. They're not at war with you. And if they are, leave that person and go find the person who isn't looking at this shit like it's a war. And so it is an ego thing. And again, I've been there, so no judgment, but it's an ego thing so that we can say, look at this beautiful underdog story that I went through. And for me, what I asked myself was, do I want the underdog story? Like, do I want to have this amazing fucking story, all this drama and this story of like, look at how hard I fought? Or do I just want the thing that I actually say I want? Like, do I want the goal or do I want the struggle and the story? And for a long time, I did want the struggle. I wanted the ego boost. I wanted the point of pride of me being able to say, look at all this shit that I've gone through. And at some point, like I said, with the help of my spiritual coach, I realized like, no, I just want to have sex and it be a wonderful connection with the women that I'm with and for it not to be a struggle. I want to just be able to relax at the end of the fucking day and have her come over and it's chill and there's no drama, there's no bullshit, there's no boxing match, there's no crap, there's no games. I want my business to be exactly the same. I don't want to get into fucking sales and objection handling and how to like push people and do all that kind of stuff and how best to have a fucking funnel and what kind of marketing should I do. And nothing against any of that shit if you're into it, but it wasn't the kind of stuff that I wanted. I don't want to have to use force on someone. I want to just do the work, sit there and have a really good product, or sit there and, play the numbers game and talk to a lot of women and just find the people that connect with my message or find the people that connect with my values and who I am. And they like me, I like them. Cool. It's smooth. It's easy. It's fun. In other words, I didn't want the fucking games. I just wanted the result. I didn't want the story anymore. I just wanted the fucking the fucking results. I wanted the fruits of my labor to pay off rather than obsessing about the labor itself. And so, I say all this with love as someone who has gone through this many, many, many times. I went through this with girls. I thought I had to suffer. I thought that the rejections had to be difficult. And then finally it clicked in my head and I was like, wait, I'm allowed to enjoy approaching. I'm allowed to just enjoy talking to a woman. I'm allowed to just enjoy the process of finding a woman that an attractive woman and just saying hello to her and having a conversation. I'm allowed to enjoy that process. I'm even allowed to, and this was the real fucking epiphany, I'm allowed to enjoy when she says no to me. I'm even allowed to enjoy it if she's ever rude to me. If she tells me to fuck off, which is pretty rare. But if a girl does tell you to fuck off, you're allowed to enjoy that. You don't have to suffer through that. I think we are so quick as humans, maybe just as, I don't know if animals do this too, they probably do. We're so quick to label things as like good or bad or evil or, right or wrong and all of that kind of stuff. And certain things just get a label as automatically bad. Like rejection is one where people just say, that's bad. And it's like, is that true though? Does it have to be bad? And I realize what I'm saying for some of you might be like a big fucking like, it might sound crazy or it might be a big fucking epiphany, but a rejection doesn't have to be a bad thing. You can pause the podcast right now and think of 10 reasons why a rejection is a good thing. Like pause the fucking podcast and have a think. I can blast you with some right now. It builds up your stoicism. It's beautiful because it's the woman saying what she wants. And isn't that beautiful when someone says what they want? I don't know about you guys, but there's been plenty of times in my life where I haven't stood up for myself, or I haven't had firm boundaries, or I haven't said no to something that I didn't want or didn't want to do. And then I go along with it and then I feel silly. I feel angry at myself. I feel like, why the fuck did I do this thing that I don't want to do? So every time someone says no to you, it's like a little reflection of those moments where you've been brave enough to say no. It's nice. It's a reinforcement of that. Maybe they're teaching you how to have boundaries, right? Maybe if you're someone that doesn't have strong boundaries yourself, a woman says no to you, and then after a few no's, a few, quote, rejections, and I don't call them rejections, it's just a woman who doesn't want to sleep with you. That's not a rejection. But after a few of these, quote, rejections, maybe you can go, fuck, maybe I can take a page out of some of these women's book. Like, they're really fucking brave. Maybe they're teaching me bravery. There you go. There's a fourth one. And so if you sit there for long enough, you can come up with 10 reasons why a rejection or a woman saying no to you is beautiful. The same thing as like you can come up with 10 reasons why it's great that your boss didn't give you that promotion. Well, it's going to force me to work way harder now. Hey, it's showing me exactly where I am in terms of my work ethic and stuff, because my boss would have probably given me a promotion if I busted my fucking ass and if I was a good employee. So this is really nice feedback. Maybe it's showing me that this isn't the company for me. Maybe I need to work on my resume and jump ship and go sideways and go to a different company where I will be appreciated and I will get a promotion. You can come up with like 10 reasons why this is a fucking beautiful thing. And so each one of these things that we just automatically, or people often automatically say are bad, like rejection or a breakup. A breakup is another one. God. Here's a big one that some of you might not be ready to wrap your heads around, but a death in the family, like going to a funeral. What does everybody say at a funeral? I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for your loss. This is so hard. I'm sorry. This is painful. This is misery. It's like, I know that's coming from a good place, but you're not making it better by saying sorry for your loss and this sucks and this is painful. That doesn't fucking help the person. What I would focus on, and I've done this at a funeral, is you focus on the good things, right? You say, isn't it fucking beautiful that someone like this existed and we all got to know them? Isn't that just fucking magical? Isn't it so magical that this person let us into their life to the point where we grieve this much at the funeral? It hurts this much because of the connection we have with them. Isn't that fucking magical? Isn't it nice that we only have a limited amount of time on the earth and this person's time came, but we still get to be here and we get to carry on all of the memories that we made with them. We get to tell their jokes, or we get to tell some of the stories that they had, or we get to share some of the memories that we made with this person and kind of grab that torch and carry it on to the next generation. We get to remind people of this person that we all knew and loved. We get to tell new people about this amazing person that we all knew and loved. You know, when my grandfather died, both my grandfathers have died, but when the first of my grandfathers died, he was someone that I was very, very, very close to. I saw him every single week for my life, like in my life. And then when I moved away, I would still phone call him every single week for my entire life. Like I was as close to him as my parents, essentially. And when he died, yeah, everyone was really sad, and I was a little bit too, but I just had this overwhelming sense of like, what a fucking gift this is that I care this much about this guy that I'm sitting here crying. What a fucking gift that he loved me enough that I can sit here and just cry over him and everyone else here is crying. And like to this day, and he died, God, I'm trying to think, like 10 years ago. I think it was 10 years. Yeah, it would have been. It would have been 10 years ago, I think. I still to this day carry him around in my heart. I still tell the same fucking shitty jokes that he used to tell. I have adopted a lot of his personality. A lot of the reason that I go outside and just talk to random strangers and I talk to as many people as I can was because he fucking did that his entire life. A lot of my charity, or me trying to be charitable, me trying to be good to other people, comes from him. Because he was very fucking charitable. He would do like bread runs where he would go out and give bread to the homeless. He would look after like single mothers and make sure they were okay. He'd buy like toys for their kids. He would donate like through the church. He worked in the church and he was like very kind to people. So much of his personality I have adopted. And so, to bring it back to the original point, these things that a lot of us say are automatically bad, or we just slap a label on it and say, that's bad, that's awful. Understand that you're telling a story when you do that. And that's your entire right. I'm not going to tell you that your story is wrong. A lot of people at a funeral are probably not going to be open to the idea that, man, isn't it beautiful that we're all at this funeral right now? I think the vast majority of people won't accept that. And fair enough. But you are telling a story. It is a story. And so when you go out there and you have these boxing matches, or you're tempted to have a goddamn boxing match with the opposite gender, understand that that's a story you're telling yourself. When you say this is hard, or this rejection was painful, or man, building this business is awful, or fuck, man, weight loss is so difficult. I've heard so many people say that. Not for me. Weight loss for me was fucking fun. It was 9 months. I lost like 77 pounds, and I would walk for like 8 hours a day. And I would sometimes eat like 500 calories. And by the way, I don't recommend you restrict calories that much. It certainly took a lot of willpower. But every day I woke up and, a lot of people would look at all of that and say, man, that you must have suffered like hell. Are you kidding me? You walked for like 8 to 10 hours every single day. I had a standing desk. I basically forbid myself from ever sitting down or laying down. Like I had a rule in my head. I'm not allowed to sit down or lay down unless I'm going to bed. And so I just try and be on my feet the entire time, often on, like I said, 500 calories. I even had a couple of days where I ate nothing. I just ate lettuce, which is like 50 calories. And I probably ate like 200, 300 calories of lettuce in the day. A lot of people would look at that and say that's suffering, but I didn't allow myself to suffer. I didn't want to suffer. That entire time, I woke up every day with a fucking mission, a purpose, a reason for living. It was me embarking on my self improvement journey. I loved every single second, even though sometimes, yeah, my body would physically sort of say, holy shit, like, I need a little bit of a break. This is difficult. But I didn't suffer during that. Every day I woke up and it was just fun. It felt like I was alive. It felt like for the first time in my life, I had life inside me. And when I realized the same thing with cold approach or with hitting on women, when I realized I didn't have to suffer, it became this beautiful, fun thing. And when I was nervous and shaking, I would literally look at my hand shaking and I'd be like, wow, like how fucking beautiful. Look at the fucking adrenaline that's pumping through my body while I shake. Like this shows me that I'm alive. Like when a girl would say no to me, I'd like, fuck, great. Yes, thank you for the next no. This is literally making me stronger. Even though everything inside me wanted to curl up in a ball and just cry or run home. And sometimes I did go home. But as I was going home, as I was running away and running home, I'd be like, you did it, man. Like, you fucking legend. Look what you just did, son. Like, go home, lay on the couch for a little bit, cry for a little bit, but good fucking job, man. Look what you just did. Holy shit. This is going to make me stronger. I know this is getting me closer to the point where I don't care about a girl saying no to me anymore. I know that this is getting me closer to that. And I fucking loved every second of it. The same with building a business, with building this business. There's been so many nights when I couldn't sleep. So many moments where I couldn't pay the bills, so many moments of frustration. But yet, when I take a step back, the entire time, I don't want to be anywhere else. I don't want to be doing anything else. I wake up every day and work on this shit for like 10 hours a day because I fucking love it. One of my good coaching clients, a guy called Ravi, is a really good example of someone who went through this same metamorphosis. He used to tell all these stories of his own suffering and his own misery and how difficult this shit was. And, it was him versus women, like it was a fucking boxing match. And he's not perfect now, but he has come leaps and bounds and has a much more stoic and Buddhist and just hippie, free love, happy mindset where he's like, this doesn't have to be difficult. Like, women are fucking beautiful. They're wonderful. They're obviously, this is going to sound like a ridiculous thing to say, but they are human beings. Yes, we know, but sometimes we forget that, especially in dating. So many women forget that too, and they forget that men are fucking human beings with emotions and hopes and dreams, and they get sad sometimes, and every now and then we cry and all of that. Women can lose track of that as well, and they just see men as these, like, I mean, God, if you take it far enough, you can become sort of the cliche stereotypical feminist where you're just like, all men are bad, all men are rapists, like toxic masculinity, like men, get away, men, you're bad. And you lose track of the fact that men are just fucking human beings who are trying to do their best. And guys, some of you sometimes, or some of us sometimes, forget that about women too. They're trying to do their best. They're not bitches. They're not a complete cunt because she doesn't want to sleep with you. They're not trying to ruin your fucking life. They're not trying to hurt you. They just have their own shit going on. They're their own fucking human beings. And so we indulge in these stories of how this is hard or brutal or tough or pain or suffering. It doesn't have to be that way. Eventually, and I've seen this with basically every coaching client who, does enough of their goals that they feel like they've sort of made it, they give up the fucking games. They give up this boxing match shit. They get tired of it and they just want to win. They don't want to suffer anymore. They're like, I'm done with the suffering. Like, I indulged in that. I just kind of want to win now. This thing is allowed to be fun. I think I just want to have fun. I think I just want to skip, or I want to leapfrog to the part where this shit's allowed to just happen, like with minimal effort, like that's what I want. I don't want to have a boxing match with a woman. I don't want to have to jump through 500 hoops just to have sex with her. I don't want to have to feel like it's push pull and, she almost says yes, but then she says no, and I have to say this, and then I have to say that, and then I have to say this and that and this and that. I'm tired of the fucking games. I just want to find the women that want to have sex with me or want to date me. And if they don't want to have sex with me or date me, beautiful, good. Next, I will go and talk to the next girl. Everyone that I have coached eventually gets to that point. They eventually have had their feel of suffering. It's like, yep, I've fucking filled my little bucket of suffering up and it sucks. It's not fun. It's just suffering for the sake of suffering. I want to get to the point where I'm having sex with very little effort. You guys are allowed to enjoy the process of talking to women. You're allowed to enjoy the process of trying to have sex. You're allowed to enjoy the process of losing your virginity. Here's a big one. If you have erectile dysfunctional performance anxiety, you're allowed to enjoy that too. What the hell? How could I enjoy performance anxiety and erectile dysfunction? God, I don't know. It's not like I've talked about this hundreds of times. You can just take your dick out of the equation and say, okay, how can I actually have fun tonight? How can I play to win? Instead of obsessing about the fact that my penis isn't working, which is focusing on losing, how can I focus on winning? I can tie her up and blindfold her and use my hands. I can use my mouth. I can use, some BDSM stuff. I can watch any of the videos that Andy's done on BDSM or read his BDSM guides on his website. And I can try some of this BDSM shit. I can try tantric sex where we slow it down. It's really sensual. It's beautiful. It's like a connection. It's amazing. I can have that kind of sex. We can do fucking anything else that isn't even sexual, but I don't have to sit there and suffer just because my dick isn't working. Nothing in life has to be suffering. I understand people are very attached to their stories of suffering. Like I said, I don't expect to walk into a funeral and just tell people, isn't this fucking beautiful that this person has passed on? Because some people are open to that. But a lot of people are not ready to give up that story. And I think there's a lot of emotion tied up in like rejection. There's a lot of emotion tied up in entrepreneurship and building a business. There is a lot of emotion tied up in your physical body, like your appearance, if you're trying to lose weight or add muscle, but you are just attaching to stories when you sit there and say, this is suffering. So you're allowed to slow down this process. You're allowed to be more present, more in the moment. When you're physically talking to a woman, you're allowed to just enjoy that fucking conversation without thinking, God, I hope she doesn't reject me, or God, this is tough, or God, I'm doing such a bad job right now. Why do I suck at this? God, she's never going to sleep with me. I'm never going to do this. You can pull all that shit away and just be a boy that's talking to a girl. Can't you just humble yourself, or you're allowed to humble yourself enough to just be a boy talking to a girl? That's it. No expectations, no perfectionism, no alpha male Chad big dick God bullshit. You're just a boy talking to a girl. Or if you're building your business, you're just a guy that's trying to help some people. You're trying to just give some value and change some lives and, do whatever along the way, entertain some people along the way. When it comes to losing weight, you're just a guy that's going to the gym and just having some fun lifting some weights. You're just pulling on the fucking machines. You're doing the bench press. You're doing your little bicep curls. You're just having fun. You're just getting in there and enjoying the damn process. One of the best things that I ever did for working out was slow it right down, put on like yoga, hippie, spiritual music, and just meditate while I'm lifting. Like literally while I am lifting the fucking weights, just really slow down and just concentrate on how my muscles feel. Move really slowly. Just enjoy the actual thing that I'm doing instead of thinking, I have to get to 10. I need to get to 10 reps. Okay, I did 10. I got to do 2 more sets. Okay, I have to bang out. No, stop thinking so much about what you have to do. Start thinking about what you're currently doing and enjoy the fucking moment that you're in. Same with building a business. When you have someone, if you're doing, I don't know, like a sales call or something, you don't have to sit there going like, I hope this guy buys. Oh my God, he better buy. Otherwise I'm fucked. Like if I'm a bad salesman, I can't pay the bills if he doesn't buy. No, slow it down. Listen to the human being that's in front of you when he's telling you his concerns. Don't automatically in your head go, okay, objection handling. How do I handle this objection? No, slow it down. This is a human being who's telling you that he's scared of something, telling you that he's worried about something, telling you he wants you to help him. The same with women. When a woman says, I don't know about coming back to your apartment, instead of going, okay, fuck, like, how do I get her to come to my apartment though? Like, shit, she's resisting. Like, fuck, what do I say? What do I say? Slow it down. Realize this is a woman or a person who's in front of you who's just nervous or scared or not sure if she's ready yet. Meet her at the level that she's at in that moment and say, I get it. Like if you feel like we're moving too fast, we don't have to go back to mine. Or do you want to go back to mine and just try some stuff? And if you feel like we're moving too fast, we can just slow down. You just say slow down and we will. Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to leave it till next time? Do you want to meet up for a second date and fool around a little bit then? Would that make you more comfortable? Realize the person in front of you is, in fact, a person. Get out of your head just a little bit. And this takes practice, and it's okay if you're not great at this at the start, but slow down and actually be in the moment. Pay attention to what's actually happening in the moment instead of what might happen in the future. So get out of your heads. You don't have to suffer. You're allowed to enjoy the process of dating and approaching and sex and business and losing weight and all of these goals. Dating and everything else really, but dating is not a boxing match, or it doesn't have to be. It can be if you like that, but I don't know, guys, like boxing matches just seem like such a fucking lot of effort to me. And I did that shit for years. I had this mindset of boxing matches and it's me versus the girl. And It just wasn't fun. It wasn't satisfying. It was way too much drama. The sex was not as good because it's hard to have good sex with someone that you feel like you've just been in a boxing match with. It's not conducive to openness and trust and vulnerability and kinky sex and all of that, which usually requires you to be on the same team as the person. So you don't have to be in a boxing match. This stuff is allowed to be a beautiful dance between a boy and a girl, or a client and a business owner or an entrepreneur, or two friends, or a boss and an employee, like whatever it might be. All of these relationships are allowed to be just a beautiful dance of two human beings coming together, both seeing if they want the same thing, and if they do, moving forward. If they don't, hey, going separate ways. Isn't that fucking beautiful? As always, ladies and gentlemen, go out there and crush those goals.